we got this story here. Let's pull this one up from the New York Post. It's just frustrating. Hunter Biden laptop material entered into congressional record. Hey, that's really, really good. They say material from Hunter Biden's infamous laptop was entered in the congressional record at the request of Matt Gaetz. Mm-hmm. The Florida Republican made the move during a hearing on oversight of the FBI Cyber Division after its assistant director, Brian Vordren, testified that he didn't have any information about the Hunter Biden laptop, which the Bureau seized from a Delaware repair shop in 2019. House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler initially blocked Gaetz's request, but relented a short time later. Nadler's change of heart came after what Gaetz described as consultation with majority staff. I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record of this committee content from, files from, and copies from the Hunter Biden laptop. Nadler responded without objection. There's a lot of really nasty stuff in there. But the craziest thing is some of these emails directly implicate Joe Biden in a scandal involving Ukraine and kickbacks, dirty dealing.
Well, and all of the same people who told you that this was a baseless conspiracy theory expect you to trust them on Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah. And now, I mean, they come back, what?
And Jussie Smollett.
2 years later and say, oh, never mind, it was real.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's real now. Even then, they won't say it was like they almost try to do this funny thing where it's like, it's real now. It's real now. But like back then, it wasn't. When you were talking about it, it wasn't true. Now it is.
You know the stories where they claimed the laptop was Russian disinformation? They're still up.
Really?
Yeah, they're not corrected. They're opinion pieces masquerading as fact.
It's so paranoid. How
do we break people out of these lies, these manipulations? How do you expose people to the truth and show them the corruption?
I think if somebody wants to believe that, they're just going to. The topic of Russian disinformation is so hysterical, given that this is a concept which was lampooned for decades. As soon as the Cold War ended, and even during the Cold War, there was always a very tongue-in-cheek attitude that the American press and American media took towards any suspicion of Russia. But then, as soon as they decided that you should think Russia is a real threat, millions of people started thinking Russia is a real threat, even though weeks ago they had been making fun of people for even considering the possibility that Russia was a negative actor on the world stage or that we should be frightened by them. So, I mean, if you're able to do that kind of a 180 because the media told you to, I'm not really sure what I can say to you to convince you otherwise.
Well, Russia is a threat to Western dominance and global domination.
Well, sure. I'm not saying that these other countries and other major players on the world stage are not adversarial to us in any way. But my point is, it was considered laughable to say anything negative about Russia. We remember in 2012 when Mitt Romney said that Russia was going to be a large geopolitical foe for us, and he was laughed at by everyone in media. Yeah. And then in 2016, we go, it's not as if they started taking this realistic approach of saying, well, Russia is a decently sized nation. They're a world power. Maybe we should be concerned about them. It turned into everything that goes wrong in our country is because of Russia, which is insanely paranoid and a complete 180.
And it's just another buzzword. I mean, like white supremacist, racist, homophobe. It's whatever that's going to stick that riles people up enough in their emotions that they don't care what the truth is. I feel this certain way, so I'm gonna express myself and believe you and attack the other person who doesn't agree with me.
Mm-hmm. It was a breath of fresh air when the biggest viral story of the day was that Will Smith smacked Chris Rock.
Yes,
because I'm just like,
good distraction.
It's a good distraction, but kind of, literally a good one. Like, can we just back away real quick from being at each other's throats all the time and just argue about WWE on the Oscar night?
Yeah, I mean, I think my instinct and the instinct of a lot of people when that first happened was to say that this is a distraction. There's something important going on that they don't want us to see. But then you dig a little deeper and you go, what are they distracting me from? Something else they were just going to lie to me about anyway, and I wouldn't have gotten the truth on?
Yeah, I think...
Maybe I'm getting jaded. I don't know.
Everybody, when it comes to arguing about Chris Rock and Will Smith, it's kind of just, it's relatively nonsensical. Mm-hmm. When it comes to arguing about what's going on with the war, there is a good, a good point in that we need to know exactly what's going on with legitimate information to prevent catastrophe. But for the time being, or I should say in this current time, people will just believe whatever they're told to believe.
Yeah.
People on the left are like, the media can lie to me 1,000,001 times and I will still believe whatever they say.
Well, because they're not going to the media to get actual facts. They're going to the media to watch the media forward a particular narrative. And so if they get information wrong, it's actually inconsequential because they're still doing their job, which is telling me things that make me feel like I'm a good and virtuous person for supporting left-wing causes.
It kind of goes back to they've almost got the abusive relationship syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where, you're going to beat me down, but then you're going to apologize and I'll accept it. And then you're going to do it again, but you're never going to do it again. But then you do it again, but I love you and I'm afraid nobody's going to love me if I don't. So I just keep coming back for you.
I hear you, but it's worse than that because there's never an apology. Dude, I'd like flowers every once in a while. You know what I mean? Yeah. I should have gotten some chocolates after Russiagate at least when the deep state tried to depose a democratically elected president. No, nothing. Just story blew over.
I wonder if there's like a funny bit on business models that operate the same way. They consistently don't do their job, but keep apologizing and you keep hiring. Your toilet breaks, so you hire a plumber and he walks in and he's like, all right, let me get to it. 8 hours later, he's like, all right, well, I'm leaving. That'll be $500. And they look and there's just crap everywhere.
We have those. It's called hedge funds.
Yeah.
And they just keep doing it.
And it's also very true of political leaders. You see this all the time. Whenever someone's running for re-election, they go, the country still has all of these problems. I didn't fix it in the first 2 years or 4 years. Give me another 4 years to not fix it. Or 47 years. Give me more time to not do the thing that I was supposed to already have done.
If any other industry operated the way the media does, just think about calling your, hiring groundskeepers to like mow your lawn. And they leave and send you an invoice, and you walk outside, and they didn't mow your lawn. You'd be like, okay, well, they didn't, or worse still, they mowed they mowed it all awfully, and then they mowed your neighbors, and you're like, okay, like, hey, you guys made a huge mistake, and they go, no, we didn't.
They call you. They're like, actually, that is. You're like, hey, you guys messed my lawn. Like, that's Russian disinformation. Let me send you a Snopes article. We actually did a great job mowing your lawn.
You're just against the Skaggs mower I used. What's wrong with you?
But it's funny that we tolerate this. Yeah. This is supposed to be one of the most vital services for a country, and it's just broken.
I got to say, though, I think we're tolerating it less. More people are paying attention to independent
media. But what's being done about it?
Yeah. I think people are just not paying attention. Because you know what it is? All right, we're about to go a little bit. So you mentioned abusive relationships, and I want to take a little bit further on that analogy, because when you are dealing with someone who is truly toxic, one of the best things you can do is just stop paying attention to them. You're probably never going to hold them accountable. You're never going to get them to admit they were wrong. You just have to remove them from your life. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing with mainstream media.
Yeah, it's about time, I suppose, because no other industry fails at their job this miserably. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess government.
I was getting ready to say. Government in general is pretty, they've set the tone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, what'll wake people up? What will get people to finally? Because I've asked everybody this.
People do not get involved in anything in life until it affects them personally.
Yeah.
For the most part. That's just the way it is. If we can just go about our business and just pretend it's not there, put my head in the sand, I'll just keep going on. But once I was affected by it personally, I took it more serious. And then I was encouraged to reach out to people and go, whoa, they're lying. Hey, pay attention. But before then, I knew they lied. But it was like, it's not affecting me. So, I mean, it is, but it's not, not personally. On a personal, hardcore, right to the bone level. Mm-hmm. And once it does that, it's kind of like drinking and driving. Doesn't bother you till somebody gets killed by a drunk driver.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, man, that's horrible. Or overdose. My cousin died of a fentanyl overdose. And it's like, took a little blue pill that she thought was a muscle relaxer that somebody gave her, and boom, gone.
I'm sorry.
What did it turn out to be?
Fentanyl.
Oh, yeah. No, you just said that. Yeah.
So, and while you put the good fight out for it, it's still not as personal until it affects you. And then, you just feel a little different.
Yeah, I mean, so speaking of which, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the Breonna Taylor case. I'm not sure when we wanted to get into that in your story and what you feel the media is lying about.
We're getting there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, then, on the thread that we were just on, your question is, what can we do to get people to wake up to this stuff?
Make funny cartoons?
I think making funny cartoons is one thing, but here's the thing. Everyone in this room, anyone doing anything politically related for a career or talking about that stuff is completely useless, and their job doesn't have a point if our audiences aren't standing up for these values in their everyday life. So one thing that's been said on this show before by you, I believe, and it's something maybe I was a little too cynical to accept at the time, but I would more or less agree with now, is that with most people who buy into the narrative, if you were to sit down and have a half-hour long conversation, even a 10-minute long conversation with them about a lot of these issues, they would come away with a different perspective. Not the people who are ideologically possessed, but just your average person who believes in this stuff. And so the solution is just for the people who are watching this show and who believe in what's being said here to be more willing to have conversations with people around them. And I know it's frightening. I know a lot of people are scared to do it, but there is never going to be any significant change unless that occurs. Because we're just talking to you, and it's funny because audiences will look to their preferred political commentators to talk about this stuff, and what you don't realize is like we are looking at you guys to talk about this stuff. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. It can't just be us talking about this. It can't just be us having this these conversations. You got to bring this stuff up around people you know who can be persuaded.
I'm tired of hearing about secret Trump supporters. The secret Trump vote. I'm like, why was it a secret? Why didn't you tell anybody? Mm-hmm. The only reason anybody had anything to fear if they were a Trump supporter is because Trump supporters wouldn't speak out.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you had a mix, though. Some Trump supporters wouldn't shut up about it.
Right.
Flying flags everywhere on their trucks and stuff. I can respect that. Then you have a lot of people who are like, oh, I better not say anything. And it's like, just say it, because if everybody did, you'd be fine.
Yeah, well,
people are scared.
It's exactly
of everything. It's amazing how scared this country has gotten. Just, I mean, on every level. And I don't know if that's been the course over the years of, I remember back in probably 2010, we were in a big meeting at work, and one of the higher ups was talking, and he was like, well, perception is reality. We can't do that. And I was like, oh, ho. Perception is not reality. Reality is reality.
Right. Amen.
And I get what you're saying. You got to be careful how you frame stuff, but it doesn't matter what this guy thinks of perception. Mm-hmm. If Tim thinks, if his perception is different than 50 people, but we're worried about his perception, so we're not giving the truth, then we're hurting the other 50 people just to please the one. And it's just got out of control. It just kept going and going. And now we're where we at. We're so politically correct. Everybody's scared to tell the truth. Nobody has thick skin where they can take the truth. Yeah. And so we just shut up, and then the loud ones run the country.
When people say perception is reality, there's a good point being made.
Right, I understand that.
What you see kind of dictates what you focus on and how you live your life. But the problem we have with journalists is that they've taken that to heart. And instead of saying, I should seek other perspectives to fill out the narrative, they say, if I say it's true, because perception is reality and my perception is all that matters. So instead of doing any research and telling the truth, they're just like, what I think goes.
I think both of you made points about the most vocal people representing the movement. And yeah, that's very much a consequence of your average person who exists within any of these movements or leans towards those movements being way too afraid to say anything. And so unless you want your movement to be painted exclusively by the folks who are willing to talk, you have to stand up and say something. And that's the point I really want to stress for everyone. I know I say it pretty often on these shows, but if you guys aren't out there talking about this stuff, there's no point for us to be doing this.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.